All right, we're live on the air. This is the Synth Summit Show, episode 14, and we've got a huge group of guys today. Normally, it's only like one or two people on here, but I decided to make it a party. So we've got with us today Brad Ferguson of FutureSonus, developer of the Parva polyphonic analog synthesizer. And Brad, how you doing today?
Doing great.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through and make sure that everybody knows where everybody's at. So what part of the world are you in today?
I'm in Austin, Texas, in the U.S.
And is that where your company's based out of as well?
Yeah, that's where we're based.
Excellent. Next to him, we've got Moot Booxle, YouTube phenom, and I don't know, all around awesome hair grower. So how you doing, Moot?
I'm good. It's Booxle, actually.
Booxle, that's right. Well, we were talking about this at KnobCon.
I know.
And, you had said Booxle at one point, making fun of how some other people said it,
Right.
And it stuck in my head.
That's all right.
So, and what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Fort Myers, Florida.
Excellent, excellent. And next to you, we have Steve Baker of Ethereal Sun, maker of fine custom Eurorack bamboo cases. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great. Coming from you right outside of Chicago area, so it's warm and balmy and sunny. No, it's none of that. So,
so one more guy here. We've got Winston. You're basically like a face, a beautiful face for Balcones Distillery, right?
Yeah.
Is that how I should introduce you now?
Brand ambassador.
Yeah, and Synthesizer nutcase. So I don't know if people have been following his Instagram posts and whatnot, but he's been doing some wonderful things with a tomcat of all things.
I just sold it, by the way.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got the shipping notice for the drum brute, and I was like, all right, I don't need this anymore.
That's one way to do it. So I'm going to start off with Brad, and Brad, I wanted to talk to you about your Parva. So as I was telling you a little bit earlier in the show, well, before we started the show, this is one of the first products that I haven't actually had hands on. So I'm going to have a lot of some general questions. I know a few people who have them, but just some general aspects of it. First, why don't you tell us about the project, what it is, and how it got started?
Sorry, I have to take off one of my headphones. I can't hear myself talk. A few years ago, I had this idea to design a polyphonic analog synth and try to make it affordable. And so I came up with the design you see here. It's got 8 voice cards in it. This one, I think, only has 6. But it can be expanded from 1 to 8. And it costs $1,000 with all 8 voices populated. About 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I started a Kickstarter campaign to get it funded. And early this year, we shipped all of the 100 units to the Kickstarter backers, and now we're doing retail direct through our website.
Excellent. So this project, is this the first synth that you've designed and created from scratch, or is this one of many? Like,
this is the first commercial one, yes. I've designed a few modules and stuff in the past, and this is like the 5th iteration of this synth, but it's the first to go commercial.
So tell me a little bit about the voice structure of this thing.
It has 3 DCOs per voice. They can do, they have a saw core, and they can do triangle and pulse width as well. Then it has 4 envelopes. Let me hold it up here. 4 envelopes, 4 LFOs, and it has 2 2-pole filters arranged in series, and you can select different modes for each of them and combine them in various ways to create 2-pole and 4-pole high pass and low pass and band pass filters.
And so are both of those filters the same design?
Yes, they are.
And did you say how you said how many poles?
Total of 4 poles, 2 poles for each filter.
That's awesome. So you have 4 envelopes and 4 LFOs. How do you
Right.
go about assigning modulations on that stuff?
Well, each of the envelopes you can do it the basic way or the advanced way. The basic way is each envelope has a modulation destination where you can choose, oscillator pitch or pulse width or LFO speed, whatever you want. And then there's also a modulation matrix with 16 slots where any of the modulation sources can be routed to any of the destinations. I think there are currently like 48 destinations available. And you can route one thing to multiple destinations, or you can route multiple sources to one destination. It's pretty flexible.
Oh, that's awesome. What about can you do any kind of cross modulation or anything like that with the oscillators? Because I know DCOs, like, some of them can do that, some of them can't.
I guess DCOs tend to not have cross modulation. This does not. The third oscillator can be routed to the VCF cutoff, so it can do filter modulation. And the LFOs go up to almost 500 hertz, so you can get relatively close to FM type modulation on the oscillators as well.
And how long has this been up for sale now? Like, is it something that you can pre-order, or is it something that's actually out and you can get it right now?
It's out. We're shipping, but we're still back ordered, and so we've been doing sort of rolling pre-orders. If you order one now, you get one in about 6 weeks.
Oh, that's not bad.
And so basically, we try to update the availability of it. Usually update it weekly. So depending on how many orders we get for the week and how many parts we have in stock and how quickly we're assembling them, the timing can change, but it's about 6 weeks right now.
Now it says that it's also multi-timbral. Can you set up 8 individual multi-timbral voices? How does that work?
Yes. There are 8 slots in a multi-timbral patch, and you can assign any number of voices to them. You can assign keyboard splits, MIDI channels, however you want to do it. So you could layer them, you can split them, you can do 8 completely separate instruments. Basically, all the functionality is there. It's just a matter of how you want to use it.
Oh, and you can select a whole host of different synth voice choices. I'm sharing my screen up here right now, and I have your store up, and I'm just kind of clicking through the different layouts that you can purchase this thing. That's pretty cool.
So like I said, it's expandable. You can get it with 1 voice installed for $4.99, or you can get it with 8 voices installed for $9.99, or any number in between for about $100 a voice.
That's really cool. So if you just want to buy, a 2 voice for now and then expand later, you can do that.
You can do that, yes. To be honest, not a lot of people have taken advantage of that. It seems like, I think 99% of what we've sold has been the full 8 voice.
And I think at that price point, it's kind of like $999 for 8 voice.
That was the target.
4 envelope, 4 LFO that's very tempting.
Right. The point was to make something extremely flexible with a lot of modulation capabilities. It's not a modular synth. It doesn't have patch points, but almost everything is accessible through the mod matrix, and you can route any of the LFOs envelopes to any of the other parameters. And
what about the MIDI control on that? Like, how deep does MIDI mapping and output as well?
Every parameter is MIDI controllable. The more sensitive, like the filter cutoff, for example, you can go through a MIDI CC to get 7-bit control, or you can go through the NRPN, which gives you a full 14-bit control.
Oh, nice. So you do have 14-bit control in there, because that's
right.
I don't know if you've seen the show before, but I get kind of crazy about synth designers using analog filters with digital control, but not taking account of like 7-bit stepping and that sort of. It drives me absolutely up the wall.
on the front panel, the cutoff knob is actually, it's sampled at 16 bits. And then the filter is also calculated internally at 16 bits. External MIDI control can be 7 or 14 bits. And on the front panel, it'll just display 0 to 127. But there are actually gradations in between those numbers.
Can you tell me a little bit about the screens that you have on there?
Unfortunately, I don't have a power supply right here for this one, but it uses 5 OLED displays. There's one for each of the sections of the synth. So across the top row, you've got your main oscillator menu knob. There's a display for the oscillator menu, and then these are all potentiometers to give you like direct analog control of all of the functions. But deeper menu options are displayed on a display here, and you can scroll and click and do all kinds of stuff with the encoder. And there's one of those menus for, or one of those displays for each section of the synth.
Excuse me. By the way, I'm still fighting a chest cough, so I'm not going to infect you guys with my cough, but I'm just letting everyone know. The screen, does it update, you know, pretty quickly? When you're changing parameters and whatnot, is it all updating like real time? How's that working out for you?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact refresh rate, but it's like, 30 frames per second or something, 24 frames per second, something, it's real time.
Now, again, I haven't seen this thing. Like, I haven't actually laid hands on it, so I'm going to ask just some kind of general questions that people who've used it or seen it are probably going to know. But so things like graphical displays of slope cutoff and things like that. Do you have anything like that in there? Or is that?
No, it's not nothing fancy like that. There are sort of icon displays of various waveforms, and there's a really basic envelope display, but it's not an accurate graphical representation of the actual envelope.
Oh, I have another question for you. So at the bottom here, you've got the A and the B knob.
Yeah.
So for instance, on VCF, if I want to set key tracking on or off, how do I go about setting stuff like that? Because there's only a cutoff and resonance knob where VCF is.
Right here on the left, to the left of the cutoff, is a VCF knob. This allows you to access the filter menu, and there are about 8 options in the menu. You just scroll down. I wish I had a power supply for this, but you scroll down, click filter key tracking, and turn the encoder to the right value. So
there's not a lot of menu diving. It's all pretty much right on the front panel, and then
all of the mainly used controls are on the front panel. For your oscillator, you've got control over the tuning, the wave shape, and the level. But if you want to say enable oscillator sync, then you go into the menu, and there's one level of menus. There's no multi-level menus except for in the main like global settings where you're going in to set your MIDI channels and things like that. There are a couple of levels, but for the synthesis parameters, everything is in a one level flat menu, and there's about 8 options for each of them.
Now, what about so if you're setting things like the envelopes, do you also have a delay setting for envelopes?
Not right now, but it is on the roadmap for firmware update. Obviously, there won't be a hardwired knob for that one, but it will be available in the menu. One thing that I added relatively recently was loopable envelopes, as well as switching between linear and exponential per envelope. So you can use a linear envelope on your filter and an exponential on your VCA, or vice versa, whatever you want to do.
So that's actually brings up a nice topic. What about firmware updates and that sort of thing? What sort of support are you providing for this thing after purchase?
In the past, to be honest, there was a delay with one of the most recent firmware updates. It took several months to get it completed. But since then, the synth is now, as far as I can tell, feature complete. there are a few bugs left, and we'll be releasing a new firmware update on Monday, and then from then there will be feature enhancements, every couple of weeks to monthly.
And I'm looking on here. It looks like you have a community forum as well for people as well, so they can
Right.
communicate and kind of talk to you about the synth on there.
Right. Yeah. Some people prefer to email, and so that's fine. They can email me and discuss it. And other people prefer to have a forum to talk about things publicly or to discuss with other users. Right now, I think there are only a couple of real bugs out there. So hopefully, once this new firmware is out on Monday, things will be resolved.
And what about patch sharing?
The firmware update utility also allows you to dump patches to a computer. The Parva itself has space for 384 regular patches and another 128 multi-timbral patches. And you can dump those to a computer or reload them from a computer and share them with people on the forum or email or however you want.
Very nice. So as far as this thing is concerned, as far as like actual manufacture, where is it being manufactured at?
The final assembly and testing is all done here in Austin. Some of the parts are made in China. The circuit boards are made in China. The enclosure is made in the U.S., but the final assembly is all done here in Austin.
Very nice. What would you say is probably the hardest aspect of getting this thing finally to market?
Firmware, I think, was one of the biggest things. Yeah. There's a pretty wide gulf between what I want to do with the synth and what every other person in the world wants to do with the synth. And so one of the difficulties was, not telling people you have to use it this way. So when somebody comes to me and says, if I do this and this and this, it doesn't work right, then I have to work on the firmware to fix that and make it work for them in the way that they want to use it.
Excellent. Yeah, it looks like a really wonderful synth, and the build looks really nice and solid too. Yeah, so
that's one of the things that I'm most proud of is the build quality. We've had firmware issues. We've had a couple of hardware issues, but overall, I would say the build quality is extremely good. The whole thing is made of aluminum. The knobs are machined aluminum. The pots are all panel mounted. The individual output jacks on the back are full 1/4-inch metal jacks, mounted to the panel as well. So it's a fairly solid unit.
Do all the knobs send MIDI out as well? Can you set it up as a controller if you want?
You can set it up as a controller if you want. You can send MIDI out through the DIN outputs or through the USB output, or both.
Nice.
One other thing that you haven't asked about yet is USB host function.
Yeah, you know what? I was about to get to that. I saw that on the site.
Okay.
Now, the USB hosting, right? This is any class compliant controller?
Any class compliant controller, yes.
That's pretty awesome.
So far, we haven't had any compatibility issues that I know of with MIDI controllers. Some of them are weird. Roland does this thing where their controllers don't start up in class compliant mode unless you hold down a certain button while you're powering it on. And some other controllers do weird things as well. But if you can get it into a class compliant mode, then the Parva can host it and power it.
That's awesome. I just got the new Arturia Mini Lab MK2 for testing and review, and it's class compliant, and it's powered over bus. So really all you would need is to just plug that thing in, USB cable, and good to go. Can you tell me a little bit more about the filter design? Like, does it take after anything? Is it like transistor ladder, or is it like diode, or what style is it?
It's an OTA filter that takes after. If I had to pick one, it probably most resembles an MS-20 filter.
Oh, cool.
But it's not a super smooth like ladder filter or Moog style filter.
It's got that grunge in the resonance.
Right.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
awesome.
And it can scream, it can squeal, you know, it does all of that stuff. Some people say it reminds them of a Polyvox. I would say more MS-20, but you know, either way, it's just a little bit raw. I felt like having the DCOs and having such a, you know, having everything be digitally controlled and so smooth and clean was just a little bit boring. So the filter just adds some grit to that.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to kind of, you know, balance the synth out. You know, I personally really love the MS-20 filter and like, I like resonance that kind of will bite, you know. Moog filters and the Mankato filter is another one that I really like that's really smooth. That sound is awesome, but like, man, when you have a polysynth that has a biting resonance, you can do some really cool stuff. Those types of filters tend to have to be a little bit tougher to filter track. Can you make it track across octaves?
Not as a playable oscillator, no.
Okay.
So there is a built-in auto tune function for the filter. You run it and the filter is set up and it'll mostly track okay for a few minutes and then it'll drift out of tune again. It's extremely difficult to make this kind of filter track perfectly.
Yeah.
But it does track musically. So I would say it's not really playable as an oscillator on its own, but it is a musical tracking. So, you know, when you play an octave up, you are getting the filter moving about an octave up.
What about like droning and that sort of thing? Can you do like a key hold and then make it into a drone synth, that sort of stuff?
That's not a feature that's in the firmware right now, but it is something that a couple of people have asked about, like setting up, say, one oscillator per voice to just be on all the time.
Yeah.
But with the way the routing works internally, everything, all three oscillators go through a mixer, through the filters, and then into the VCA. So really the only way to do that would be to sort of separate out one voice and just have that one voice droning while you play the other 7 voices, for example.
Yeah, and so what about like unison and you know, setting up the multi-timbrality? What kind of flexibility do you have in there?
You have complete flexibility. So in the basic mode, so in a basic unitimbral patch, you would have poly mode, unison mode, or mono mode. Mono meaning just one of the voices playing in mono. Unison, all 8 voices playing, and poly, you know, it has an algorithm to allocate voices. In a multi-timbral mode, you can again set it up however you want. So you could have you could set it up as a poly synth with 4 voices playing, or 4 note polyphony with 2 voices in unison for each note, or any other combination.
So yeah, are these going to be available in like actual dealers, or are you just going to only sell them through your site? What's the plan with that?
The plan right now is still to keep selling them direct. It allows us to keep the price as low as possible without having to deal with the distributor and retail markup. And to be honest, right now we can't make them fast enough. So even if we did have dealer orders, you know, they would still be back ordered.
I would imagine with the dealer markup, you'd probably be looking at about $1,500 on this thing.
Yeah, generally it's, you know, 30% to the distributor, 30% to the retailer. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty darn feature-packed synth, and considering you know, like, I don't want to necessarily say competition because it's not quite fair to say other synths are even competition because it's such a boutique thing, you know. Even though the cool thing about it is it doesn't necessarily look like it's, you know, such a small, you know, operation that's making it. It looks like a finished product from, like, you know, an established long-term company. So I mean that says a lot about the build on that. Just that aluminum enclosure, the OLED screens on there, everything. It's really fantastic looking. How many people do you have as a team working on this, or is it just you and then, you know, people that are
it's pretty much just me. I occasionally have technicians who work with me to do things like soldering rework and testing and sort of low level testing. But I think right now up to this point, every unit has been hand tested by me before it goes out the door. Yeah, when I started this company, I've had experiences in the past with partners and working for other companies, and I've had some bad experiences, and I wanted to see how much of this I could do on my own. So, everything from learning SolidWorks to be able to design the enclosure to, designing the website to, shooting the Kickstarter video on my iPhone, all of that stuff is just, stuff that I felt like I had to do myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really cool synth, man. So definitely thank you for showing us that. And keep us updated as far as like any firmware updates or changes that you do. Is this something that you plan like long term to support, or are you just trying to get the firmware done to a finished state and then leave it be, or how do you want to approach that?
Well, I have internal conflicting opinions on that. Obviously, as far as my, the use of my time goes, getting the firmware to a complete state and leaving it at that would be great, because it would leave me free to work on something else, work on the next thing, and make something even better. But I feel like I have an obligation to the people who buy it to make it as good as it can possibly be. And if there's something that I left out, something I forgot, or something that no one's even thought of yet, if it's possible for the hardware to do it, I don't see why it shouldn't be added to the firmware.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my philosophy. It is going to have hardware limitations. There are going to be things that people will ask for that I won't be able to do. But if it's possible, then I'll do my best to support it.
Cool. Are you finding that as you try to add or change things, that it creates more bugs and problems, and you have to fight with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Back in March, April, around that time, I was adding features and fixing bugs at the same time, and found that just the overall the architecture of the firmware was just wrong. It wasn't extendable like I wanted it to be. So I took several months to completely refactor the firmware and make it possible, make it more stable, and make it extensible, so I could add features to it without breaking other things. But yeah, every time you add a feature, you have to test all the other features to make sure everything still works.
Sounds like a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah. Well, one of the newest features that I added, and it was actually something I promised someone during the Kickstarter campaign, and it wasn't on the website, I don't think, but we finally got it working, is MPE support, multi-dimensional polyphonic expression. And so with controllers like the Rolly Seaboard or the Rolly Rise or the
Linstrument,
yeah, or the new Keith McMillan instrument. Any of those that support MPE can control the Parva. It works basically like a multi-timbral setup where every voice is running the same patch, but you can pitch bend individual notes and adjust the filter on individual notes and other things like that. But having support for that will really open up a lot of sonic possibilities.
Do you have any of those controllers to mess with?
I have a Rolly Rise right now that actually Rolly sent me one to test with. They'd been getting several inquiries from people who had a Rise or who had a Parva and wanted to buy the Rolly thing, and people who, vice versa. And so they sent me one to test with, and they've got a Parva on the way to them to do testing on their end as well. Additionally, one of the Linstrument the Linstrument firmware guy has a Parva as well. He's got a YouTube video out there of the two of them together.
Very cool. Yeah, I could see that being something super useful. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in checking that thing out. Might have to raid the credit card. Who knows?
I have a question for Brad, actually.
Dude, you're not allowed to talk.
Ah,
You sit in the corner and you shut up.
just sit here and drink my whiskey.
That's right.
Yeah. I was curious, as far as just the legacy support, as far as continuing adding features, fixing bugs through, indeterminate amount of time. Has there been any thought about opening it up to kind of like the DIY homebrew community, like, making it open source so people can, kind of tweak with the firmware themselves? I know that's popular in some circles, not for everyone, but, I've seen some pretty cool results come from that.
Right. I don't, first off, I don't have any philosophical problem with open source. I think it's great. And I use a ton of open source software, like in my web work or in my desktop programming. I would have considered opening up the firmware of the Parva. The only reason I haven't done it yet is I don't feel that it's complete. I kind of feel like putting out incomplete or firmware with a bug. I guess it's an ego thing, maybe. I don't want people to see my mistakes. So possibly with the next version, or maybe the version after that, when the firmware is, working solid, steady with all of the known bugs fixed, then yeah, I'll put it up on GitHub, and if anybody wants to mess with it, they can.
That'd be cool.
Very cool. So I want to I'll thank you for that again. And the website is FutureSonus, SONUS. Definitely go check that out, futuresonus.com. You can pre-order now. You said it's about a 6-week lead time?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's about how long it's going to take me to get my money right anyway. Very cool, man. I got to say, like, when I first saw early images of the layout, I was like, man, that's so smart. Like, it's not a typical design layout. It doesn't use like the mini Moog layout that so many people want to copy, but at the same time, it's not archaic at all. It's really,
Well, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted the individual displays for each section, and so the options were that kind of limited my choices. Having that row of the row of OLED displays down the side here kind of limited how I could lay out everything else. The other option would have been to just have a display here and another display there and another over there, and I couldn't figure out a way to make it look nice and clean. And so I just put them all in a line, and it worked out. Yeah,
I gotta say, I was really impressed with the design layout. It's just so clean and modern looking. And on top of that, it's clean. It's just, it doesn't look like, my studio is always a mess. Everybody knows, like, my studio is constantly a mess. That's part of why, and this is going to be a nice segue. I had to get this new case. But that thing, it just looks like it'll sit on your desk. Doesn't look ugly. It's just sharp looking. And there's other synthesizers out there that have a lot of OLED screens, but they don't lay it out in that kind of way. And they don't utilize space in such a crisp design as this, so hats off to that, especially considering this is the first user interface you had to design, right?
The first real user interface. Yeah, I mean, I've designed 3 and 4 knob stomp boxes before, but that's
a little different.
That's a little different.
Yeah. So definitely going to be checking that out. I'm really interested in the USB host mode too. I think that's something that's I hope more manufacturers jump on board and start doing that more and more, because you're starting to see the DIN plug is kind of going away more and more. And which
there are a lot of controllers without DIN MIDI output.
Yeah. I mean, that's just super useful. And one last thing about power on this thing. What kind of power do you need for this? Is it wall wart? Is it 12 volt? What?
5 volt wall wart.
Oh, okay. So that's not that much. If you were to rig up a battery to this thing, how quick would it kill it?
I haven't tested it. I think you would probably want the 2.4 amp type of output,
Mhm.
but I think that you could probably get a good, 4 or 5 hours out of
Wow.
a decent sized battery pack. I would have to calculate it. I don't have,
So you're saying you said it's 5-volt transformer on there?
yeah, 5 volt.
Wow.
So you could theoretically you could hook it up to one of those 5 volt USB
Well, that's what I was. Yeah, that's what I
battery
was kind
packs.
of getting at. Is because I do that a lot with my synths. That anything that's honestly, I even do it with like 12 volts. But I'm an idiot where I like to just grab my stuff and sit on the couch or do whatever. Like sometimes I just, as awesome as being in the studio is, sometimes you just want to sit on the couch. So like I've rigged up a battery pack for my Ultra Nova. I did one for my mini log. I tend to do that a lot. But if that thing takes 5-volt, it makes it really easy to plug up a lithium ion. And how many amps does
Yeah.
the wall outlet that you use?
Well, I provided
What's it
with a
require?
two
I
and a
should
half.
say.
I provided with a 2.5 amp wall wart, and the max that I've ever seen with everything going full out is about 1.8 amps, and that's providing 500 milliamps to the USB as well. So if you didn't have the draw on the USB host, then I think the max is around 1.2, 1.3 amps.
Because these little guys right here, I believe this is like 2.1. Yeah, this is 2.1 right here. This is what I use for my Ultra Nova. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Now I'm like super interested because then you could just, if I could just Velcro this to the side of it and then take like the mini lab and plug that into the USB host. Oh, that would be dirty. I'll get in so much trouble with the family for that. But and I'm not saying that it works. This is all speculation at this point. But given what you're
Yeah,
saying,
I haven't tested this. Your battery pack may not work like that. Some of them I know you have to have a certain pin shorted or a certain resistance to get the full output. Like they only put out 1 amp unless you have this resistor on it, and then it puts out 2 amps or something to charge
yeah,
cell phones. So, I don't know if it'll work exactly like that, but in theory, yes, it would work.
yeah, I definitely need to. Yeah, I need to make that happen. The wife is going to be pissed. Yeah, this is going to have to go down. This is something that's in my life. So I'm getting questions. What about USB audio? Does it do USB audio?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It does have one of the reasons for that is that at this price point, we couldn't fit in a multi-channel codec. And since we wanted to have all 8 individual outputs, 8 stereo outputs, that would have been 16 channels plus the mains, which was a little bit too much to fit into the box at the price point.
Cool. All right. Well, that needs to happen in my life. Very cool. So thank you for telling us about that. And I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. So going from talking about the Parva, which is desktop and fairly compact and everything, we're gonna switch over and start talking about modular. Do you have any modular, Brad?
I don't, but I'm working on some stuff right now.
Oh, nice. Are you thinking about possibly doing like modules or?
I don't want to commit to anything on the air, but
Fair enough. Well, we'll stop right there. Like I'm not
okay.
gonna, I'll twist your screws later. But very cool. So yeah. So people are asking about the outputs. Are they mono outs or is it 8 mono outs or 8 stereo outs? That's
so in addition to the main stereo outs and the stereo headphone jack, there are 8 stereo outs, 1 for each voice. So each voice has its own panner, and each voice is a completely independent stereo synth. So each voice has an independent stereo output. On the back, there are 8 jacks. You can use a TRS to dual TS, like an insert jack or insert cord, or anything else that you want
very
to
cool.
get the stereo out.
That's insane. Yeah, very, very cool. So, yeah. I'm wondering if everybody that's watching right now is like, so I've got a bunch of viewers. Everybody just send me like $5, man. Come on. This is like serious gear lust right now because I was kind of like on the fence earlier just because I didn't know enough about it, but like just here, man, it's really feature packed. Yeah, that just looks like a ton of work for one person to do.
Over here.
Say that again.
I'm kind of crapping my pants over here. This is really amazing. I think.
Yeah, I mean, and the NPE stuff. I mean, yeah, that's yeah, very, very cool. So we'll switch gears a little bit. Steve, I got you here. You made an awesome modular case, and I'm gonna switch over to my screen for a second here. So Ethereal Sun, I met Steve at KnobCon. KnobCon, for those that don't know, it's a synthesizer convention out near Chicago, and Eurorack tends to dominate it. But so I met Steve there, and Steve came up to Corey from B-Boy Tech Report and myself and was like, hey, you know, I watched the show. I came out here and I created some case. You guys basically got me inspired to kick it up a notch and make these cases happen. And he had a bunch of cases. Now, let me, I'm going to navigate to the Ethereal Sun site real quick. And essentially, you had bamboo cases, which were cool. But on top of that, you also had custom rails and custom metal panels that are, you know, colored or hammered copper. I haven't seen anybody do anything like that before. So why don't you tell us first about how you decided to do bamboo?
Well, just to start out, you know, like a lot of guys, I watched that. I dream of wires. You know, I've produced in the past. I've got a studio. I've been a Pro Tools user since like '92, but been away from it for a while. And then just was like, wow, where did this Eurorack? How did I miss this? You know, and then found out about you guys, and then found out about KnobCon. I thought, well, I probably couldn't put a module together for like 3 years. So what could I do? And so I was looking around, you know, starting to build mine, bought a power supply, you know, the happy ending, and said, okay, I need to build a case. And then I got the idea, well, you know, I think I could build some nice cases for this. You know, there's a lot of different good guys out there making these things, but I wanted to bring something unique. And so I got a friend who runs plant foreman for a cabinet making company. He says, you ever consider bamboo? And I was like, no. So he showed me some of this, some of the laminated sheets, and I go, wow, this is really nice. And so that was kind of the genesis of using bamboo to bring something different to the market. There's a company out in Australia, but I figured, you know, it cost $1 million to ship that. So I thought I'd start out with concentrating on the bamboo. You know, that was the start of it.
So I'm gonna get some really nice close-up shots of this thing as well. First, I'm gonna show the top. Let me click over here and kind of adjust my lighting a little bit. You guys are gonna have to bear with me as far as the lighting is concerned. But so another thing I want to talk about is this laser etching. So not only are they, you know, it's solid bamboo, but not only is it solid bamboo, but it's also like you can get custom laser etch. This whole case is 100% custom, like, and basically the procedure that we went through to do this was just some back and forth emailing and conversations, texting, talking about, you know, what I wanted in a case. And, you know, you were completely on board to just try it out and go for it, even though this was a totally original design. So if someone wants to get a case from you, tell us a little bit about the procedure.
Well, so I do have standard cases. If you go to Ethereal Sun, actually for you, I created a special offer for anybody watching. So if you go to etherealsun.com/flux, I have a special coupon for folks and a special offer. But it has the 12 cases that we currently started out with. So I have a small 3U unit that has the show.
Let me click over to you so that you can hold it still so that the camera doesn't blur. There we go. Look at that. Now these are what I was seeing at KnobCon, and
Yeah.
the cool thing about these is it's not just that it's you know, the solid bamboo, which is really nice and looks beautiful, but tell me a little about those hammered rails, because those were really cool.
So I was looking around, and every site I looked, all there was is silver aluminum or black anodized, and I thought, you know, it's kind of boring. And so I got a friend who's a salesman who sells powder coating and does all kinds of high-end exotic finishes, and was a plant supervisor for 14 years, so knows all about this stuff. And he goes, hey, I got some cool colors for you. I got one that we use on motorcycles. So the gold is actually on, I can't mention the company, but it's actually a product on some high-end motorcycles. And then he showed me this hammered copper. So not only is it looked like hammered copper, it actually has a textured feel. You can actually feel it. So I decided,
you really can too.
Yeah, so I decided to come out with that. So the three, and then we decided we'll offer a black as well, but it's a soft touch black, so it's got a really nice finish to it. So those are kind of our three standard colors for the rails. But as you can see, I knew that Ken loved green, so I was like, all right, let's find a color that comes close to your green. And Ken, I think you said it's spot on.
I tell you what, and hold on, I have a little light on over here. Let me shut this off. But yeah, so we talked back and forth a few times. We emailed, and I kind of was like, you know, I had this green in mind. I really want it, you know, like a bright, almost neon green, and you know, that's my color. And you can see even like my multiples. Like I love green. It's like I'm obsessed with green. And the camera that I'm using right now doesn't fully show it in exactly the same color. If you're watching the video, the green that's on my lower thirds is actually closer to what the rails look like than what the actual video looks right now, just so you know. I don't know, I guess it's the lighting or whatever. It makes it look a little bit muted, but it's actually really bright. And it looks dead on for exactly what I wanted, which is, you know, it was cool. And you even sent out some stuff ahead of time just so that I could check it and make sure everything looked cool. We did like an early test of the logo engraving, and it just looks fantastic. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, the laser part of it's a little tricky because, you know, sometimes people think, well, can I get a color image etched onto it? It's like, no, it's really kind of a black and white process. So, you know, you don't know until you test it out what it's actually going to look like. But I thought your logo looked really good. I did actually do a test panel on the green, but it looked a little different. So I thought about doing an inlay, but we decided to go ahead and put it right on the front of your case.
Yeah, and I'm gonna see. Let me see if I can. I'm going to switch over to you so that I don't show anything I'm not allowed to show.
There you go.
There we go. And I'm going to try and move this camera because I want to show the back of this thing too. So again, getting back to the fact that all of this stuff was custom, we had discussed that, you know, I get a little bit aggressive with my gear. So I wanted to make sure that this thing wouldn't tip over at all. And you put in like some custom kickouts in the back, and we also did some air vents in the back and everything. So again, I'm trying to make sure I don't.
Yeah, I'll have some pictures of it up at the site after the show in a couple hours. I should have had that before, but
you know what? I might have some as well. Let me see if I can find those because I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Don't get yourself in trouble.
All right. So yeah, but this thing is rock solid too. I mean, it's built like a freaking tank. I mean, you can sit here and push on this thing. My desk will fall apart before this thing will. I can tell you that much.
Well, that was part of the conversation you and I had. You wanted something chunky and something that wasn't going to tilt, so we flared it out in the back, and we used all 3/4 inch bamboo on the whole unit. So it's not something you're going to put on your lap for sure, but
no, this is not a laptop synth. This is, you know, this is specifically designed to, you know, basically make everybody jealous.
Yeah. But I have another client that's looking for something they could put on their lap, and so I'm looking to use like 1/2 inch sides and a 1/4 inch on the fronts and the backs just to keep the weight down.
Yeah, and So that's kind of what I was getting at, is that, you know, you're accessible to talk about customization, and, you know, if somebody has an idea that maybe isn't done yet, you know, they can kind of talk with you, and you guys can kind of hash it out. As far as handling payment for these types of things, if you're doing something custom, you know, it basically, you know, I paid half up front, and kind of like we hashed out the pricing up front, and we were able to come in at that price and make it happen. Tell us a little bit about how, when someone wants something that's not just a typical case, if they want something custom, tell us about the process of going through actually purchasing something like that.
Yeah, so anything that's on standard product, you can go to the website right now. So I have them available in 84 HP and 104, because they're the small skiffs, so a 6U and a 3U. But just kind of like Brad was talking about, I didn't go to Kickstarter, so I'm kind of bootstrapping this myself. So I have designs available, but trying to keep inventory down. So it's really kind of a just-in-time piece. So if you order, I can, you know, the site will tell you 4 to 6 weeks, because that's my legal obligation. But you know, I can probably get those out to you in about 2 weeks, depending on the volume for those particular styles.
Let me ask you about the 3 and 6U that you have available there. Are you able to change out the rails in, like say you want that design that's already done, but you just want different rails? How does that go about?
Yeah, so that's part of what takes the 2 weeks. Is actually Fridays are paint day, so through my supplier. So if I'm going to get it done, it's kind of batched on Fridays that I get them done. And so really, I have my standard colors of the gold and the hammered copper that are shown there in the black. Custom colors would be a total different conversation. Then it's a different process. But any of those 3 colors, you can pick those on the site. It's actually organized that way on the product page. It's also organized that way on the /Flux page that I set up for you. So yeah, there you go. So I just have it by color and size that you want to order.
Oh, nice.
You know. I don't have the world's fanciest shopping cart, so if you want to order 20, probably just send me an email at steve@etherealsun.com and we'll talk. But certainly set up to order one at a time, just fine.
Now, what is this bottom rail finish? It looks like so it's black, gold, and hammered copper.
Yeah, so the black is actually so both the gold and the black are kind of what's called the soft touch. So you remember, if you feel it, it has a really nice feel, kind of like your rails that you have on your case. Mm-hmm. And this black, like you said, with the lighting, it actually will be slightly speckled if you put it under a halogen or an LED, or it looks kind of muted on the site. So, and the gold's the same way. It's not like the dome of Notre Dame, but it's you put a nice LED on there or halogen, and it really pops.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome to be able to order that, because I'm fairly certain that you were the first person to do custom rail colors like that.
I think so. I looked around at probably 40 different manufacturers, and I wasn't seeing, other than some exotic kind of etchings and odd chemical, staining. I didn't see anything other than black and silver, and so we want to do something different. And those particular standard colors are super durable. I mean, it would take a grinder to take that paint off. Now, custom colors, depends on the formulation, sometimes can be different. So, but it's still nice and sturdy, because I know that was one of your concerns. If I'm taking modules in and out, is this stuff going to flake off quickly? And it's not.
Yeah. That's so the color that's on my case is not your standard stuff. And even though it's not standard and it's something new that you hadn't done previously, it's still really like you can feel it. It doesn't feel like it's something that's going to chip. It feels like something that's going to be sturdy, and that, if I'm moving modules around a lot, which I tend to do, it does feel like it'll be, it'll be there. It's not gonna get ripped up or anything. I will say that if you're doing the inserts, now I don't know about your standard colors for the inserts. Like I had I hate sliding nuts. So I had rail inserts. Now, do you paint the inserts on those, or no?
I do, but not with the powder coating. It would be cost prohibitive because you'd have to seal all the holes and then, and then clean them out. So instead, what I do is I just find a spray can with a color that's pretty close, and I do that part myself. And since they're recessed inside, I mean, unless you put a microscope on it, yours, if you look really close, the green's a little darker, but it looks really good on there. The other thing that I decided to do, we talked about using vector rails, but the problem with vector rails is, you don't see them once you put the module in. And I thought, if you want to go through having these nice colors, let's have them show up. And so it looks great on your case, because no matter if you have the case filled or empty, you get to see that color. Because I know, watching the other show with St. Joe and B-Boy, not everybody gets to fill theirs up like yours can right away. So, I wanted something that's finished on the inside, looks good. So if you don't have everything filled in, that looks good. But if it does, you get to see the color coming out. So that was kind of our design philosophy and that's how it'll go going forward. It's less profitable, but using the Z rails, it just was, I think it's nicer. It looks better.
Yeah. The Z rails, what's really cool about them is that with the paint that I have on mine, I'm able to make it, I'm able to make it glow under blacklight. And we kind of tested that out the other day. Let me see if I'm going to see if I can share this picture.
Yeah, one of the things I tried to do with Ken, with yours, to kind of surprise you, was actually to put some glow. I have some availability of having glow in the dark, but the green just absorbs it all. So it just really didn't come out like it should have looked like what it looks like in this picture right here. But that's how it looks under the black light, which looks so sweet.
Yeah. This is under black light here. And I got to tell you, man, it's so cool. Like when I go into full on flux mode and I have my green LEDs in my studio, I got my green wall, I got my black light on, and everything's glowing. If you don't like that, then there's something wrong with you. It's so much more than just blinking light syndrome. It's really just ridiculous and over the top. And if you're going to do something custom, why not go over the top? So I gotta ask Moot, what do you think, man? Like you don't have a Euro rack, right? You've got 5U, right?
Yeah, we had this discussion at NobCon.
What do you think about this?
Oh, I mean, if you wanted to jump in style, I mean, it doesn't really get any better.
Yeah, I mean, the 6U case, in my opinion. So the 3U skiff is cool, especially if you want to, have like a custom processing rack or something. Like that's what I have a 3U case around here somewhere. It's definitely not cool like an Ethereal Sun, but a 6U case from Ethereal Sun would be a perfect starter. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
crack is coming your way.
I have a question for you, Steve.
Yeah.
Do you offer these in different orientations? Like, you know what I mean? Like you can have one that's more upright or a skiff style, or tilted any certain custom way, or
Yeah, well, so if anything that's custom, that would be a conversation. So just talking about that process. And I'll have more of this documented on the site to kind of educate people. For right now, though, it starts with an email. And then at some point I kind of switch over to text because it's just easier for me. I guess I'm an old guy. Just text it. Because there's lots of questions. And it's just really conversation around, what are you looking to do? What's your budget? Some of those kind of things. And then it's, after I get that idea, then I typically will put together a CAD model, and give it kind of a angled shot so you can kind of see what it would look like along with some dimensions, and then I'll send it to you and see if that works for you, and then it just it goes from there. But then really it's as Ken was saying, it's up until the time I'm cutting wood or coating rails, there's still opportunities. So the vents at the back were a last minute ad that Ken put in there. We had talked early on about having a power supply switch, the fused outlet there. A little custom thing I did for him on the front plate for him to modify some things, so up until it's committed to a particular finished piece, there's even some flexibility, although that's the stuff, because it's it's not like Walmart, right? You know, it's not like, yeah, you know, the shade's off a little bit, I want to turn it back. You know, it's kind of like, you know, we commit up front. So it's really about building a relationship, making sure you feel good about it, I feel good about it. You know, it's a two-way street, right? I mean, it's got to be a good fit for both of us. Got to feel good about working with each other. You know, because there's quite a bit of trust in that. So that's the general process.
That's cool. So
I have a.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I kind of had a staying with the idea of custom like that, and those conversations. And this is not a SKU that you have up on the site, but it's just something that just now popped into my mind. A lot of people are really into getting wood ends for their gear. Would you consider, like, you know, if somebody said, hey, you know, I want to have, for instance, I have a sub fatty here, and I love my sub fatty. I don't want a sub 37. I like the compactness of this thing. If I said, hey, you know, I'd really like to get bamboo ends for it, is that something that you would be able to conceive of or do, or, you know?
Well, I was as Brad was sharing the Parva without any ends on there, I thought, boy, that'd look really good with some bamboo ends on there.
It would actually, honestly.
So yeah, you know, it comes down to if that makes sense, you know, one-off kind of stuff, it might be cost prohibitive. Although if it's small enough stuff like that, you know, it might be worthwhile. For you, Ken, I'd do it, you know. So, but
well,
in general,
let me ask you something. So you've got, on my case in particular, it's got a fairly steep curve to it. You know, like the bend in it, which I was like, I wonder how well he's going to be able to do that, you know, because none of the cases that you had up at the moment, you know, that I had seen really had any curves to them. So I was curious about that. How difficult is it to do curves and that sort of thing?
So it's funny, you know, I was looking to do the two skiffs, kind of see if there's any interest in this. Cause you know, I got really good response from NobCon. People are like, man, I love this, but it's like, yeah, I love Maseratis too. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy one, you know? So it's, you know, it comes down to, hey, is this something, you know, people want and are willing to pay a premium for quality product? But then you approached me and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a case. I was like, all right, let's do a case. So, you know, I'll probably put some of that up under the construction, you know, the consulting site or the customization site to kind of show that process, because we went through a couple iterations on your design. I had a really.
Yeah, I was in the middle of trying to pull that up. I'm going to pull up one of the emails, and I'm not going to show anything bad in it, but I wanted to show the CAD mock-up that we had originally done, just to kind of show like evolution of this thing. Because what was really cool about the process is that it was literally a conversation, and it was very open-ended. It wasn't stressful at all. It was just, hey, you know, this is kind of what I'm thinking. And then you would say, okay, well, I have this idea, and, you know, here's what I'm looking at. And really, you gave me a few mock-ups. And let me see if I can share this. I'm actually going to, I think I might screenshot it so I don't share anything that I don't.
Yeah, and then the final curve, my wife helped me. So, you know, for all those guys that maybe they're envious, but actually my wife's been really helpful in this, which, you know, for a lot of guys, it's like my wife doesn't even know what a Euro rack is and don't care, you know. So it's been really nice. So I gave her a couple of French curves. I said, look, I need to fit. Here's the angles of the piece. I actually built a pattern for it. And then had her work the French curve to give that kind of final cut. And then so I could actually reproduce that case for you, Ken, or others who are interested in that case. Now, I won't give anybody else that neon green. That's custom for you. So.
Now let me let me see if I can pull this. I just want to pull this up. I'm going to show this one first, if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Okay, so let me bring this over to here. And I'm going to share this screenshot. I just want people to see what this process is kind of like. So here is one of the mock-ups that we did. Okay. And this is actually I think this was towards the end. I think that the main changes that happened to this one were that we ended up going with a slant on the first row, decided against going flat. Which was great. And then up top, there's some minor changes.
Yeah, in fact, that was all the way up until it was about to start cutting. You're like, you know, I want to go a different way with the instead of having it totally horizontal for the first row, I want to go up. So that changed the curve and stuff, but essentially the dynamics of it, the height changed a little bit. So now it's like 32 overall to get that different angle. But I know you were looking, the conversation we had was you were looking to be able to sit and access everything. So that was part of it. Then we changed it again. So, and you said you can reach everything from a sitting position, which was good news. I was glad to hear that. So.
Type in here. People were saying that's the Tonto design, and I was like, yes, it was very. My initial thought process was very much Tonto inspired, just because I remember looking at vinyl and Stevie Wonder stuff and seeing that Tonto thing, just thinking, one day, if I'm ever, a human god, then that's what I would do. And yeah. So you made that possible, and just kind of blew my mind. I want to show one other quick picture of that same kind of stuff here. If I can find it real quick. I have, where is it at? Here it is.
Yeah, so sometimes the conversation around custom stuff is it something I can design and then I can offer it to others? You got to recoup your time. So I don't, there's some back and forth, but that all cuts into any kind of profit you're making. You kind of want it. It's not like it's like building modules. You're hoping you're going to make more than $5 an hour when the day's done. So,
all right, let me see if I can. Let me share this. This is the laser etching. So that's a nice close-up shot of how detailed that can be. Now this was, I believe I sent you a vector file of my logo.
I did, but we couldn't get that to work. So this is actually off a bitmap. So if we had the vector, we'd get even the sharper lined edges. But I thought it looked good with the bamboo.
Yeah, it looks perfect to me.
I used the vector-based one.
Yep. It looks absolutely stunning to me. So on the actual case, I mean, I couldn't ask it to look any better. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And
that's an example of etching before we put the finish on versus if you see the etching of the Ethereal Sun logo, that's actually etched into the finish. So it's a more subtle look. I think it's an elegant look, and I didn't necessarily want to put my brand like smack right in your face, but definitely
and just to be clear about that, so people know, like I specifically asked you to put your logo on the case. I wanted it up there. So that was something that I wanted on there.
Yeah. So you got to pay me like 10 grand if you want it off of there, kind of like the website without the
there you go.
I could put it on the front edge lip. It's going to be on that box somewhere, I guarantee. So hopefully in a prominent place, but that's all negotiable.
Yeah, that was something that I wanted, though, because to me, it's like when you get a case like this, you should probably be proud of it, and I definitely am. So this was a very early design. Or maybe this was later on. I don't remember.
Later on when we see.
Yeah, this is later on because I had decided. Yeah,
that's the angles, and I was showing you what kind of depth. So we had different conversations as far as how much depth did you need, and I just wanted to make sure, hey, are you going to be okay? But because of the shape of it, the second tier and the third tier are pretty deep. Even though you said you didn't have any modules that were that deep.
Yeah. I kind of wanted it a little bit extra chunky, just because I wanted to have options as far as if I wanted to throw linear power supplies on the inside of the case, or even what I was talking about the other day is just throwing a power strip into the case and like having it inside the case. And then we actually did a power outlet on the back of the case, like it's actually on the case. So I can switch it on and off right from there, which is really cool.
Yeah, so that's a question it's starting to come up as far as powered versus not powered. Right now, I'm building the cases and the hardware, and I gave you the power outlet, which is fine. But right now, if you bring 110 in and wire it up, you got all kinds of. I was talking to different guys, and Knob kind of says, you got liability issues, and I'm like, okay, I'm not building cases just to get sued. Even though everyone in this community is great, but that's more of a conversation. So. I haven't quite figured out exactly, like the one I'm looking at right now, we're going to reuse some of his current power supplies, and I'll probably end up putting him in just because we're using thinner material. But like in yours where it's 3/4, I knew that you're a handy guy, so you could put yours in. But that's a conversation that we can have. We just have to.
And it's another thing where you can kind of, if as long as you're not actually putting power in there, like you can have the switch there, but as long as you're not putting the actual supply in there, then it's not really your deal, you know.
That's kind of the approach right now and plan. Just as, as I'm getting started in this, and I'm sure down the road it was about 50-50 and all the people I've talked to. Yeah, I got to have it with power. Others are like, nah, I got my own options. So we thought we'd keep it simple to start with. And, that's just kind of the approach I'm taking.
And, just as an aside, if you're someone who's wanting to get into modular and you need a case that has power, and you don't want to go something like the Micro Zeus or Synthertech Superpower or something like that, which is just a module that you put in there and then you have power. If you absolutely want to go linear or something, there are guys that you can talk to, hop on the forums and whatnot, and that'll get you sorted. Talk to like Logan Erickson and those types of guys. They'll certainly, for a fee, of course, but I'm sure they'll be reasonable. It's easy enough to just say, okay, well, instead of shipping it to me, ship it to them, have them put the power supply in, and then have them send it to me, that sort of thing. Now, granted, most cases are not going to be, as massive as this. I mean, shipping something this size is, shipping something like this is a bit of an ordeal. But, if you already have a case this big, then you probably can have your power sorted. You know what I mean? But for, 3U, 6U, 9U, not nearly as big of a deal.
Yeah, and that's something to consider too, depending on that's the biggest thing I've built, and it's a dreadnought, So it was, but we worked at it. We got the price of the shipping down about half. I went through a friend that does high volume and was able to get it to something reasonable. So we can work with that too. But that's an extra cost and that consideration too when you're doing it. So basically, where you can think about it for me for custom pieces, well, generally in pieces you can figure $100 a U. So if it's a 3U, it's 300. It's 18U, it's $1,800. And then customization, you can figure another 25% on top of that. That's kind of the starting point as far as that goes. Unless there's some really great opportunity, sometimes there are to barter or some other opportunities to keep it at a more $100 U price. Either
not to put Steve on blast, but he needs some more modular.
Yeah, also willing to build a case in exchange for some cool Euro racks. So I'm just getting started too. I definitely know why they call it Euro crack. So yeah, so shoot me an email, Steve at etherealsun.com if you got some gear that might be interesting. We can talk.
Can we trade for whiskey?
Yeah. So that's something that I try to tell people is, like I said, I got to meet you in person at NobCon, and we had some great conversations out there. Spent a good amount of time together out there, actually. And it was good fun. I did miss meeting your wife there, but I got to talk to her last night, so that was cool. But are you planning on doing any more synth meetups and shows, that sort of thing, and getting people to see these things in person?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of these shows. Want to get some more units under the belt and get some cash flow to kind of recoup. We're kind of about break even right now, and just to do that. And then I'm all for going out to shows. There was a great set of people at NobCon. It really surprised me. I know you and I both talked about that. Just really nice people. I was right across from Dave from Art for the Ears.
And Dave's cases are great too.
Yeah, he was super friendly, and by the Sunday, I mean, my wife and I were watching his booth so he could go to lunch for somebody. He was just super sharing with his information, gave me good education on the ins and outs of cases. Another guy, Caleb, there, and then just a whole bunch of people. Just great group of people.
Yeah, Caleb Condit, he's got some great stuff out there as well. Art for the Ears cases. They do some really cool wood ends and things of that nature as well. So, I mean, it's a community of people that are just really sharing, which is awful nice, So it's just, it's if you want this style, you can go to this person. If you want that style, you can go to that person, and everybody's cool about it.
Yeah, and I had some folks ask me about some different things. Is it just Eurorack? And I just said, hey, this is my first toe in the water for this, and I know enough about business that you just want to make sure everything's kind of lined up. You got your suppliers ready to go and different things. Nothing worse than kind of opening up the floodgates and then you're like, oh, sorry, it's going to be 3 months before I can ship this because I got to figure this out. So it's been a little slow in starting up since NabCon, but I got all that stuff in place. Like I said, I've got it set up for the custom rail colors. I can get those every week. Got a lot of my standard boxes kitted up as far as ready to go, and just we'll kind of do the final assembly and ship it out within a couple weeks.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, so just basically I wanted to have you on so I could tell people where to go, because like you said, this is first dip in the water with it and new guy out there. So I wanted to kind of let people know. You can go on Instagram. Ethereal Sun Cases is the at Ethereal Sun Cases, right?
Yep.
Okay, so get on Instagram, check that out, etherealsun.com, and you can go on there and check out all that stuff. If there's going to be a lot more pictures and stuff up, and the website's brand new, so you're still kind of fleshing that stuff out too. You know?
And so like I said, so if you go to etherealsun.com/flux, you'll see a special offer, and I'll just continue to I'm going to continue to add more about the process and what's involved for customized pieces and that stuff. So
get some video of that stuff, man.
Yeah, well, I've got video. I got to edit them. I was shooting some videos while I was creating yours, so I'll have to put that together so people can kind of see.
Oh,
that.
I would love to see that too. Yeah, I'd like to put some of that stuff up as well. So
Yeah.
definitely, very cool stuff. So, what about you, Winston? I see Winston's over there. He's got some balcones as he's watching the show and whatnot. Now you've got a Life Forms, you got a No Coast. But you've refused to go Eurorack so far. What's it going to take, man?
Lots of money. I don't know. There's something about the immediate usability of the semi-modular systems that is really appealing to me. You don't need 20 some odd modules to make a cool sound. It's I guess they're pretty basic systems in that respect, but they sound awesome, and they're very portable. Lots of experimentation can happen with them. They're both very powerful boxes, but as far as investing in something so big and so complicated, I don't know, it's just daunting, I guess. Just doesn't appeal to me. I'm definitely the kind of person that really likes a all-inclusive synthesizer. Most of the ones I have around the house have keyboards on them for good reason. I like to be able to play them, right as they sit, basically. So I guess that's my take on it.
So, hey, Steve, one other question. The Black Friday special code, is that still good?
It isn't, but you can use the code that's in the page I set up for Flux fans there under etherealsun.com/flux.
Yeah, there we go. etherealsun-flux / or what?
Yeah, /flux.
Okay. Yeah, and
I got a new code
that
for you.
out,
That won't time out. So if you're watching the replay of this months or years down the road, I'll leave that up there just as just a special thank you for being a fan of Flux and all that you're doing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let me show this one too. I just have a couple of pictures that I want to show of the synth, because it's so gorgeous. So again, this is on Instagram at Flux302, and you can kind of see some more shots like this of this bad boy, and you can really kind of see the grain of the bamboo in there on this one, and it's really cool, but yeah, man. So Moot, tell me a little bit about what you have on deck, because lately you've been doing a lot of the I've been seeing a lot of like mini Moog stuff that you've been doing. I know that you recently got an actual mini Moog Model D, and you've been, look at that. So he's been which has its own wood case built into it.
Yes, wood is good.
So what's been the YouTube draw for you lately? Moot Booxle.
Yeah. You're gonna keep calling me that, aren't you?
I'm gonna keep doing it, dude.
I remember like 10 years ago when YouTube first started, I made some video where I was being real snarky about the pronunciation of my name, and it's like been this constant source of like irritation.
Well, we were sitting on the steps, and you were like, "Yeah, some people call me Moot Booxle," and I was like, "That's all I'm gonna call him now."
Yeah, Moot Booxle, but yeah, whatever. You can call
Nope,
me whatever you
nope,
want.
Moot Booxle.
Only
So-
you can call me that, Ken.
I hear you. So you've been doing a lot of like shootout videos, right? You did the ARP and the mini moog, right?
yeah,
and-
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the response on these videos that you've been doing lately.
Well, a little bit of history. Okay, so for anybody that doesn't know what I do or whatever, I was like on YouTube like when it first started back in 2006, and just through some modular synth, some synthesizers.com modular synth videos, and there was like hardly none at the time. It was like this very small community. There was really not a lot going on. And I just kind of threw it up there to see what would happen, and it just like blew up, it just went viral, and sold a lot of .com modules, and made a really good, connection there with that community. And but I went through some health problems and stuff, and kind of lost the momentum that I had created. And so the last several months, I've been really making it a point, okay, finally, I'm going to buckle down and make a video a week. Whatever it takes, I'm going to put a video out every week. So I've been doing that really solidly. And yeah, the response has been amazing. And trying to keep it interesting, trying to do performance-based things and then technical things, to kind of, I find that the technical things don't get as much of a response since it's more of a niche thing.
Yeah.
It's obvious.
Yeah, I mean that's it. It's something that you have to balance as far as sometimes I'll go way deep down the rabbit hole of like, all right, well, I want to get really deep into filter characteristics or envelopes or envelope timing and that sort of thing, or FM and this and that. And then sometimes you just want to jam.
Right.
And so your jam videos are really kick ass. How long have you been playing?
30 years. So since I was 3.
Old.
Old.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, the jamming videos are awesome. And I was lucky enough to get to see you performing live over at KnobCon. So that was really cool. But yeah, just tons of just dripping in the funky vibe, So if you want to go hear some like pristine gear being played by somebody who's got that juice, definitely go check that stuff out. I'll tell you another thing that helped me out immensely is, so you're an actual keyboard player, and because of that, you have an ear for what sounds right on certain keyboards and whatnot. And I found myself the other day, I was searching for I wanted a nice phaser pedal for my Rhodes, but I kind of didn't want to spend a lot of money. I've got other solutions for phasers on my Rhodes, but I just wanted something different, I just want to change it up a bit. You have a shootout series of a bunch of different pedals on the Rhodes, and not only are you showing like individual pedals, but then you're comparing the pedals, across other guys. So I think you did what, like 4 phaser pedals?
So far, I think there's 4, and I've got, like 3 more lined up that I just got to edit them. Like I've shot them already, and just, I'm sort of trying to space those out.
Yeah, so it was super useful, man.
Phasers.
Yeah, it was super useful because like I kind of like that small stone sound, but I didn't need it bad enough to where I was like, I don't really feel like paying small stone money at the moment, and I'm not going to be touring with this pedal or anything. So I was kind of looking around and I was curious as to some other pedals and how they sounded. And you had A-B'd them like across a bunch of different ones. I ended up getting like this really cheap $25 pedal, and it sounds fantastic. Yeah. And I was able to know that ahead of time by watching your videos. And it was funny because it wasn't like I was specifically looking for you. It was like I was looking for this, And I was like, oh, well, there's somebody I know and trust. And I could just go there and watch the videos, and videos are really well done and sound quality is great. And, you could make the decision yourself. It wasn't like you were making the decision for the viewer. You're just putting it out there and saying, hey, check this out. This is how this sounds. This is how that sounds. This has this quirk. This has that quirk,
Right. I appreciate that. And like, there have been some manufacturers that have, sent me gear for review, and, I've done videos on it and stuff. And it's not like, necessarily they gave me free gear, but it's been like they sent me a review unit to review and then send back. And, my whole policy from the get-go was, well, I'm not going to just shill, I'm not going to just like, unless you pay me money or something. But, I really don't want to dilute my whole thing by, just like saying, oh, this thing's great and it's a piece of crap. Like I want it to be something that I can stand behind and say, I really like this because it's really good. And so it's been nice to kind of be this sort of independent guy, reviewing things. And, I'm not tied necessarily to any particular brand. I got some things happening right now that I can't talk about yet, but that's down the road a little bit.
It's always an interesting fine line for people that are on YouTube. And this is why I kind of talk about like, oh, it's somebody I know and I can trust. On YouTube, you can make some money from the videos. Usually not a lot of money. Usually takes a long time to build up that kind of money, to where it's anything halfway significant. It's not go buy a Parva money, but it's
Unfortunately not.
but you can make YouTube money that will at least like maybe help you recoup some of your costs of making the videos, basically, which is basically all I try to do with myself. And there is donate buttons on my channel and on your channel that definitely help us out, because this is such a niche topic that we don't get the view. Like if we were talking about painting our nails, we'd be rich, I get so jealous of the girls that I see. Like I have some friends that do like makeup videos, and I'm like, you guys don't know how good you have it. Like I've got the synth community is so, and not even just the synth community, but the music community as a whole. People think that it's so much larger than it actually is. Like even if you're talking about pop music and hip hop and that kind of stuff, you'd be surprised at how small the community of actual people creating music realistically is,
Yes, there is.
So when there's a chance to support someone that is genuine, you should really do that. And on top of that, let's say for instance, I got the mini lab in for review. Now I didn't pay for the mini lab from Arturia. I got it in for review. That can easily sway someone to be biased.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of pick and choose who you watch, because some guys, I'm not a trained journalist, and I don't think that you are either. So because of that, there's conflicts of interest that can happen, that people who aren't aware of these things or care about ethics, aren't going to parlay into. They're just going to say, oh, I'm just going to put up, whatever crap this product is. If they're going to send it to me for free, I'm just going to smile and say it's great,
Exactly.
I myself, and I know that from your videos, we definitely don't do that.
Right.
I'm all about telling people what drives me insane about products. I love some products that I've paid physical money out for. Even those types of products, people can be biased about because they spent money on it. And it's like this, it's like when you were in middle school and there was like video game console wars. It's like, oh, well, I have it, so it must be the best, that kind of mentality. But no, like when you find somebody who will speak the truth anyway, it's very valuable. And I think people need to recognize that.
Well, I think that obviously it's always going to be somewhat based on opinion, and anybody is going to be biased in some way based on their particular playing style or their preferred style of music. And I try to, disclose that up front. Like, here's what I'm about. This is what I use this thing for. If you do something different, maybe go find somebody who did a video who does that thing. You know, it's like you're probably not going to get the most glowing review of a step sequencer from me because I'm a keyboard player. You know, like I love step sequencers; they're great, but I'm not, you know, I'm not really a knob turner guy. I'm a, you know, I'm a synthesist and I'm a player. You know, so like that's I think it's important to kind of, you know, let your audience know that it's going to be coming from that certain slant.
Yeah.
That, you know, because
And there's nothing wrong with that either, you know.
You know,
Yeah,
but
there's nothing wrong with it. That's one of those things where it's like, you know, because it's audio, like, let's be honest, like, unless we're doing like frequency counting and that sort of thing, everything is opinion. You know what I mean? Like whether you have the new Model D and you're like, oh, you know, it sounds better, worse, or different, you know, than the original, you know, it at the end of the day, your ears process music differently than mine do. You know what I mean? Like we all have different, you know, perspectives. We all have different frequency slopes to our ears, our actual hearing. I know Brad can barely hear at all. No, I'm kidding. But it's all, you know, it's all subjective, but there's a difference between being subjective and, you know, inserting your personal taste. I have friends that love clean sounds, and if it's dirty, they can't stand it. And I have friends that love dirty sounds, and if it's clean, they can't stand it. You know, so that's part of that constantly doing often, you know, having videos that have personality in them, because then people can get to know what your personal characteristics are, you know?
That's why I've sent a lot of people like to Automatic Gainsay, Mark Doty's videos. You know, I love Mark. I've known that guy for like before YouTube, even like back MySpace days, you know. And like he is very good at making these very factual, you know, maybe dry, you know. I mean, but it's great if you want to know all the functions of a particular synth. He's the go-to guy because he'll walk you through every spec on the thing and let you hear every, you know, knob position. And it's like, if you want to make a really informed decision, that's fantastic. But not everybody, you know, makes buying choices based on these very analytical kind of things. Like some people just want to hear the thing make some crazy sounds, you know. Some people just want to know, is it musically useful? Is it inspiring in some way? And so, you know, I think that's why it's great that there are different people doing this stuff. And, you know, I feel like my particular thing is useful to people and hopefully is inspiring.
So, and just so people know, again, your alter ego is Little Yachty, and you're a trap rapper, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, no. I want to get the show towards wrapping up because we've been going on for a while now, which is awesome because there's been a lot of great topics. But so I just want to recap a couple of things. Brad with the Parva analog polysynth, hand built by you and a team of select few, and yeah. So just to recap. This thing is, if you place an order over at FutureSonus.com, right?
Yes.
You're looking at somewhere close to about a 6 to 8 week lead time, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And
hopefully by early next year we'll have caught up and you'll be able to buy them instantly. But for now, it's about 6 weeks.
Excellent. Yeah, that thing just definitely go check that thing out because I'm hyped with that.
I want that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm like. And the layout, it's so compact. I mean, yeah, it's compact, but not, you're not going to bust your knuckles turning knobs, which is cool. That's one thing that is one gripe about Eurorack is like a lot of the knobs are so close together. You're constantly hitting things, and it's a very fine line to walk between saving space and you know, usability.
Well, I had to make the case this big to fit all the voice cards and everything else in it, so I figured I would use up some of that faceplate space with bigger knobs with bigger spaces between them. So you can
Now, if I
really get
place a
clean.
order, if I place an order for a voice card,
Yeah.
how long would that take?
That's pretty much instant because there's no assembly required. We have those in stock.
Okay. And I didn't see. I should pull it back up. I didn't see how much are the individual voice cards. Like, let's say, for
The
instance, if I
individual
bought a
voice
two
cards
voice.
the individual voices are $100 each.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Right. So you'll see if you look at the prices of each model or each configuration, you'll see there's a point of diminishing returns, right? So if you start off at $499 and add $100 for each additional voice, it's not really worthwhile to buy a 7-voice version. You'll end up paying more than the full 8 voices.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you wanted to start off with 2 or 4 and build it up later, that's certainly something you can do.
Yeah, and $100 is like, that's actually really good considering what goes into, putting a voice card together. I know from personal experience, just simply putting that stuff together is not, not always the easiest thing, and let alone accounting for R&D,
Yeah.
Very cool. So again, that's futuresonus.com, and that's the Parva.
It's FutureSonus, futureson.us.
Yeah.
.com.
SONUS.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then Moot Booxle. Tell him your, huh? Tell us your YouTube link and anything else that we should know about.
Okay, well, I've got tons of very interesting albums, very different and very funky music all over the map at mootbooxle.com. That's MOOTBOOXLE.com. And then you can search YouTube, same name. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, all the usual stuff. So, yeah.
Definitely watch those jams, like the Hammond stuff. Oh, so good. I wish I could play that well. I really do.
Thanks, man.
And really Steve Baker, etherealsun.com, brand new.
.com//flux. Don't forget that. So just ready to put together some of those skiffs for folks. Probably running, like I said, a couple week lead time just to get the rails made to order for you and sent out. And early days of the company, so always open to talk about custom work. But capacity starts to fill up fast. So if you're interested, give me a shout about that, and we can at least explore that. So that's more of a 6 to 8 week process in general.
Very cool. And there's a coupon code on there if you use the /flux, which is dope. So definitely go check that out. If you currently already have Modular and maybe you have like a crappy case that you're sick of, or, maybe you just want to get a nicer case, period, or you're just starting out and you want to start out with something that's going to look good on your desk, that's the way to go. These things are built like a tank. They won't fall apart on you. I can fully attest that the reason why I had Steve make my case was when I went to NobCon and I looked at it, I was like, wow, these things are built like a tank. They're not bulky in a way that's like irritating. Some cases, just the sides, I don't know, they just irritate me the wrong way. But the way that the bamboo edges are, the way it's laid in there is really cool. So you get this nice look, but it's chunky, but it's just not in the way, which is really cool. So definitely go check that out. And I'm going to move over to Winston. What have you been up to, man? What are the particles in the sun?
Particles into waves.
Oh yeah, particles into waves. That's it.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
So just tell us what you've been up to and all the goodness.
Man, been dying to get this drum brute. I'll tell you that. Comes here tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with the semi-modular gear, the life forms, and the Okos specifically. Kind of set up a little project table basically that's separate from the rest of my studio, so it's just got a lot of kind of smaller compact gear on it. all MIDI chained and all going through a really cheap Behringer mixer. But it's great because I can actually pack that stuff up really easily and take it with me up to Dallas when I go for the holidays, for instance. So had 3 friends come over to a friend's garage night before Thanksgiving the other day, and we basically jammed out for 3.5 hours or so. Got about 30 minutes of that on live Facebook streaming before my phone was going to die. So about, 75% of that content was lost into the ether, but it was a lot of fun, and it's nice to have that opportunity to kind of like jam out with other people and get some other musical ideas going, because, when you work by yourself, things can, maybe get a little stale. There's not a lot of variety. But working with a few other people, you all kind of just hook up and jam in, makes things a lot of fun, and you go in directions you probably wouldn't go on your own. But, other than that, I'm just spreading the Balcones gospel, working real hard, traveling all over the place, trying to figure out some way I can pack some music gear into my luggage maybe one day. But I don't know. Some of this stuff is kind of not fragile, but it's expensive. And if anything happened to it, I'd be really disappointed.
Luckily, No Coast is pretty slim, so,
Yeah, I was kind of thinking when the MPC Live comes out, crossing fingers for that. When that comes out, that'll be a real great thing to take with you, because it looks like it's going to have an onboard lithium-ion battery.
Yeah,
I don't know how much jam time you get out of that, but that would be great for traveling for me.
Luckily I'm not under NDA about that, so I can just say that it looks like that's not going to be the end of the story there.
Really?
Yeah. So there's some interesting stuff is happening over at Akai. So good. I would say keep a really close eye on that. I myself am a longtime MPC guy. And I've got quite a few MPCs back here in the studio with me. So I'll probably, if not grabbing the Live, I may grab whatever else they're working on.
The big flagship.
So we'll see what happens. But I like the smaller layout of the Live also. That right there, sir, you're talking my language. I want to tell people, man, so good. It's really frustrating that stuff is not in Delaware, but they've recently won some awards, right? This is Balcones whiskey, and I just wanted to say Balcones sponsored KnobCon. So if you're a bourbon drinker or a whiskey drinker and you enjoy tasty whiskey and you want to support the synth scene at the same time, they're a great group to do that.
Yeah, definitely. It was kind of funny because I was going to be traveling all that month, and I was going to be in Chicago twice already, but I've got all these miles built up from all the travel I do, and I figured, heck, I can go to KnobCon for free. Why not? It'll just kind of like sit in between these 2 other trips I have. And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, man, they have these sponsorship packages available. Our product is available in the state of Illinois, so just kind of made sense to throw that their way. And Mike and Suit and Tie Guy were really excited about the idea. They'd never had an alcohol sponsor before. And of course, we got to actually enjoy the whiskey at the show at the hotel bar. So it was just kind of, merging 2 of my favorite things together. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it was great fun. I mean, we actually did a live Facebook stream from the hotel room that night, and it was quite long and odd, and I actually have it on video too. I've just been like, I've watched the video a couple of times, like as far as like trying to edit it, and I was just like, man, I just don't know whether or not I want to put this out there for everybody in perpetuity,
I think because towards the end things got a little fun. You started taking your shirt off. I was like, wait, where's this going?
Is all I can say. there was quite a lot of whiskey there, and strange old ladies. I know that we kept Paul Schreiber up from Synthesis Technology. We didn't know, but he was actually in the next room over, and it was like 3 a.m, and we were making all kinds of noise, and he had to present his modules the next day, and we were just making a racket. Oh, it was great. So he was quite pissed off the next day. It was beautiful. That's the way to make friends. Piss off Paul Schreiber.
Yeah, that was great. And Mark Hendy too. We've stayed in touch. He threw me a code to download Audulus, which
Audulus, I gotta say, Audulus 3 is incredible.
I can't even wrap my head around it.
Haynes Pasquelas, the guy behind Paper Paper Noise, who does the panel designs and artwork for Hex Inverter and Mutable Instruments. He did the user interface graphics for that as well. So definitely check out Audulus if you're an iPad user, and it's on Mac also.
Yeah, Mac and PC.
Yeah, but Balcones.
Yeah.
Balcones, yeah, and
Yeah.
they just opened the distillery for touring and everything, right?
Yeah, we just moved. So our old location, which was just a few blocks away from the new one, was actually like this old welding shop under a bridge. Like, no joke, about 2,400 square feet, and we were making world-class whiskey out of this place. But of course, word spread really quickly, especially when you make really great product, and people were really just buying up every single drop of the whiskey that we made, and some people couldn't even find it for purchase on the shelf anywhere. So it became allocated, and we had to pull out of some markets. So it was a real big mess. But we finally found the right people to work with for getting the capital to build this new distillery, which is 65,000 square feet. It's a lot bigger than what we were working with before. And yeah, we just actually had our grand opening 2 weekends ago, and now the distillery is open for tours by reservation. So just hop on to balconesdistilling.com and you can set one up if you happen to be in the Waco, Texas area. And
I can say, as as a whiskey fan, it's really, really tasty. So definitely the Baby Blue has a toffee kind of flavor to it. Definitely check that out. I mean, it's super drinkable, and it's like, oh man, it's so tasty. Once it hits your lip, it's so good once it hits your lips.
Ooh.
Yeah, so definitely definitely check that stuff out. Yeah, this is all I have left.
Yeah,
that's
rationing it out.
I'm rationing it so hard. Yeah.
Just don't spill it on your gear.
You know what? If I do, I'll lick my gear. So all right, guys, listen, we'll close out, but thank you all for coming on. And Brad, I'm gonna have to talk to you some more, because I'm gonna have to make that happen. Wonderful. And Steve, thanks again, because this thing is, you guys will be seeing this in a lot of videos. So if anybody's ever wondering, hey, where did Flux get that crazy case, to go to Steve. He's the guy to talk to. So anyway, this is the Synth Summit Show, episode 14. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned. Oh, one last thing. This is not, where's it at? Oh, it's right here. This is not as cool as anything Steve does. Not as cool at all. But I just want to let everybody know, if you sign up over at fluxwithit.com, you go to shop.fluxwithit.com, sign up for the newsletter. I'm giving away a modular case that I made that goes in this. I'm giving this away. So, yeah, go on to shop.fluxwithit.com, sign up for the newsletter, buy stuff so that I can actually afford to go to NAMM this year, so that I can give you guys coverage, because it's not free for me to go to NAMM, and I have to be able to pay for it somehow. And I have kids, man. They need to eat. So anyway, all right, peace out, everybody.
Thanks, Ken.
Yep, thank you all.
Thanks.
And let me hit